This is Being Awesome with Rob Springer.
And you're listening to Being Awesome, the podcast about loving Transformers and having fun. I'm Rob. Holy crap. Lots of awesome things this week. For example, Masterpiece, Hot Rod, and Shockwave announced. And those are both toys I'm fairly interested in. Usually I'm a little passe, hit or miss on the Masterpieces. I might think, hey, that looks cool, but do I really want it? These two look great. My Masterpiece Rodimus has never broken. Fingers crossed it doesn't. But it could. And honestly, a Hot Rod in the scale of the new car Masterpieces is a welcome addition. And then Shockwave, well, Shockwave's a funny one because I've got plenty of Shockwave toys. Plenty. But I don't have the original one. The only G1 Shockwave I have is about a Ziploc bag full of Action Master Shockwaves. So having another, what's the word I'm looking for? Because there's been plenty of Shockwave toys released. A more accurate G1 representation would be a good thing. Now, with that upcoming Combiner Wars Legend size toy coming out, I may not even bother because it looks pretty close enough. But still, that's a really good option. I've had opportunities to buy G1 Shockwave, but I always pass them over because they just wanted a little too much for the guy. I think the best I saw was $60 for an Astro Magnum. That there was a lot of crap. They didn't have the slip-on barrel thing, and the hose was like falling apart. I'm like, yeah, all aboard the Hell No train. Ding ding. I don't think I introduced myself. I'm Rob. You guys probably know that because you're listening to Being Awesome, the podcast about loving Transformers and having fun. Brian Kilby calls it Being Awesome with Rob Springer. It's even on the thing there. It's kind of one day I'm going to have someone else host this just to throw you off. No one probably want to do it. Also in awesome news this week, Dan Gizelvan, I cannot say his last name, Gizelvan, is going to be at TFCON Charlotte. And that's like 2 weeks away. Oh crap. That is 2 weeks away. And I am excited and a little nervous because, it's like, it's 2 weeks away. Holy crap, I got so much to do. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of great. It's going to be a lot of great. These things I say. Dan Gizelvan, of course, is the voice of Bumblebee in the original cartoon. But he was also Spider-Man in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And he was on Pound Puppies. And he was in a million shows. He's also a very, very charming person to talk with. Just a very, I don't know, something about him. Just so, he's got that just, man, that's a cool dude ness to him. Every time he's at a convention, I always end up kind of running into him in the lobby or at a bar or something and having a chat with him for like a good 10 minutes. And he's a pleasure. And it's funny because, he goes to these things all the time. So each time he's like, I don't expect him to remember me. But every once in a while he's like, oh yeah, hey, how are you doing? So it's cool. It's cool when they remember you. Or he could just be saying that just to make me feel special. Which it works. Hey. But yeah, he's a really cool guest to have. And some people I've heard say, well, he was there last year. It's like, well, good. Double points. He's a great guest. Honestly, as much as, of course, I love my Rubit cartoons, and really more excited about him because of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. That was the cartoon that came on when I was a little kid that, Spider-Man and superheroes were cool. That really kind of introduced me more into the setting, and introduced me into more superheroes. Like, at the time, X-Men was pretty much a comic thing only, and then they had X-Men episodes, and it really got me interested in them. And of course, later on, it got built, and it became a bigger thing. But little things like that, it's just a great show. I remember there's a cool sequence with Iron Man flying through space, shooting little meteorites with his hand lasers. That was just a great show. I think Frank Welker was Iceman. That was really cool. Um, I'm saying a lot. I don't have any Q&A this week. The only question I have in my queue right now is for next week's show, which will be the TFCON, I guess, survival guide episode. See, I hate saying survival guide episodes because it's not like you're going into a do or die situation. You're going to a con. So it's more like the tips for TFCon, like things to know, things to think about, things to, because you don't think about everything. If you're your first time, it's going to be, you might need a couple little pointers on what to do, what not to do, because a lot of people their first shows they just kind of dive right on in, and then they like miss out on stuff, or they don't do, or a lot of people get sick at cons. I never figured that out. I've never had that happen. Um, I guess it's because a lot of people are more. I work in a I have I've said before I take pictures of granite for a living, but it's still in a warehouse, environment. So I guess being around people and all that, I'm not as perceptive to things as, say, maybe someone who works at home or is a little more shut away, I guess. Of course, here in Georgia, you go to Walmart every Saturday, and there's probably a good 5,000 people in there. So maybe it's just me being used to my environment. Um, But yeah, next week's episode, I'm going to go all into that, to be a heads up. Now, that being said, it's going to be a short episode this week. But before we go away, I'm going to give you guys a little heads up. The whole being fun part of being awesome. Today is October 2nd. By the time you guys see this, it'll probably go up Saturday or Sunday, the 3rd or the 4th. So you may not hear this episode till next week, or you might watch the video on Facebook this weekend or what have you. But it's Halloween time, is what I'm saying. And one thing I want everyone to think about, you're about to have some really great TV opportunities for viewing. Halloween is like one of my favorite times of the year. And I love all the costumes. I love all the seasonal candy. I love all the decorations. I just love the whole time of year. And being a big horror fan, I'm really all the Halloween TV is great. I love Halloween specials. I like the Ookie Spooky, like Nickelodeon will show old episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark and stuff. I love that crap. But also, almost every channel will be having some sort of horror marathon or two. AMC is famous for it. Actually, a side note, I think it was 2001. Yeah, 2001, when they did their Fear Fest, they had a contest that year for, if you guys remember the You Don't Know Jack video game, it was really popular at the time. The You Don't Know Jack horror competition that went on for a week, and 500 winner out of 500 players could win a compact PDA thing. And I played that Joker, and I won one. So it's always a kind of nice little golden star on my personal memories. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of Halloween TV. So I'm going to kind of take a moment in this Transformers podcast to go a little more off topic and explain maybe some pointers to some of my personal favorites or some things to watch. You're going to have a Friday the 13th marathon, and you're going to have a Halloween marathon, and probably a Nightmare on Elm Street, couple of movies. And these long-running series, which all have a reboot. Actually, I'm going to throw in Texas Chainsaw in there too. They all have a reboot. But here's the funny thing. These long-running series actually have small, soft reboots during them to kind of get them going in a new direction. And if you don't, for the casual fan, they may not notice. But for you, say if you're just kind of flipping on TV and picking up, like, this is part 6, what are they referencing? That's the beauty of it. Because a lot of times they may reference something earlier in the series, but they're really kind of going forward from a new point. Now, of course, I'm not saying these are the most plot-heavy movies in the world, but, there is stuff in there. Like, Halloween manages to keep a tight continuity through the entire movie series. And they're pretty much the only ones to really do that. But they do a really good job. But there is some starter points. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you watch the original 1978 one, That's like my favorite movie, and for good reason. It's a really well-made horror movie, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Um, it's not just a mindless slasher movie. There's it's simple in its storytelling, but it's also genius in its storytelling. For example, Michael's the boogeyman, and he breaks out and he's stalking these babysitters. But there's all these cool little subtle things, like they draw your attention to points when Laurie Strode notices Michael Myers is outside the window or behind the laundry line or something looking at her. Or as a scene drives by and they make a point to make you notice. But there's a whole lot more scenes where he's in the background and they don't make any point to point you out to it. You just sharp-eyed viewer, like there's a scene where Laurie and Annie, of course, Annie's driving them to their babysitting jobs for tonight. And they're just talking, having teenage talk, and I can't tell you how many times people don't notice Michael Myers is driving right behind them. It's like he just passes them. It's like they don't really take. There's a lot of little stuff like that, but there's also points where, sure, it's a movie about a escaped crazy guy that goes out to kill some teenagers, but it's like it's not just that. There's times where it's a ghost movie where he's doing spooky things and scaring like they're what's over there? Nothing. It's like just kind of like fake out spooky stuff. And there's a clear point in the movie where it becomes a haunted house movie. Like, spoilers, it's a 37-year-old movie. There's a scene where Laurie goes to the house Annie's working at because she hasn't heard from her friends. She tried calling and had a weird conversation, basically. And she goes in there and Michael's done set up all the bodies to scare her, like he's done set Annie up with his sister's gravestone. He's got Bob hung to swing out at her and stuff. It takes all these twists and turns. It's a really smart movie, And then the sequel, while getting more to the slasherness of it, it picks up right after it and keeps going, and just keeps umping the intensity of the situation and the craziness. It gets a little unfathomable in a few parts, being these movies, but it's the way it is. And of course, part three doesn't have Michael in it. John Carpenter had wanted to make an anthology movie series, and 3 was the starting point, and it didn't work out, so he went back to putting Michael in all the rest of them. But in part 3, it's a movie I've grown to really love as an adult, also, because it's basically the ultimate Halloween afternoon special on steroids. It's a movie about a mask maker and this line of Halloween masks. It's all the rage, and it's actually part of his plot to kill all the children. It's just like when I was a kid, local channel 46 here in the Atlanta area. In the 90s, it became a CBS affiliate and got really boring really fast. But before that, it was just a syndicated station showing syndicated reruns and movies. But it was freaking badass because everyone in this area knew that's where you'd watch Transformers and all your cartoons and all that. And they'd always have these awesome themed movie marathons and all that. And Halloween, the whole month, was nothing but like it got made over. It was Halloween on 46, and they just went ape shit with it, and like they would use the montages from Halloween 3 and all their station bumpers and stuff. And so I've just got an appreciation for it there. But like I said, many reboots, it got one there. And then in part 4, a few years later, Michael returns, and it kind of softly reboots to him, even though it's in Haddonfield and it's a continuation of a story. He's now chasing Laurie's daughter, and Laurie's supposed to be dead. And they follow that for the next 3 movies before abandoning that for H2O, where they go back to the original part 1 and 2 continuity. And if you really like those movies, they actually did comics to kind of continue that story. And then, H2O was followed up by the really bad Resurrection. The fucking movie sucked. And, of course, that followed, and that's where they did the Rob Zombie reboots, which I'm not particularly fond of, but it has its fans. So you can see there, it's got several places where it's kind of starts over. And Friday the 13th is the same way. There's the first 4 movies, and the fourth was supposed to be the last one. And there's a little, it's not as tight, so you can really just pop in. 2, he's not wearing a hockey mask, so you might be like, why is he wearing a bag? But there's like, say, little nods, like one of the girls Jason kills in part two, her brother's looking for her in part 4. Little stuff like that. And there's a kid, Tommy Jarvis, who's in 3 of the movies, sort of a tying thing. And part 5, they start trying to do a mystery with like, who do you think the killer is? It's a guy copycatting Jason. And they do kind of fake outs to make you think it's someone else. And then, 6, they kind of start over Jason Lived, and they kind of start a new thing. And even though the other movies will reference, it's been going on for a while, they really just kind of follow its pattern. And then, of course, they kind of, where Jason Goes to Hell, kind of resets, more modernizing it. And same with Freddy Krueger. I mean, you can watch the first 2 Nightmare on Elm Streets, but the Freddy Krueger you know and love is introduced in part 3. Before then, he's just kind of quiet and mean and monstrous. In 3, he starts smartassing and starts really being the Freddy Krueger you know. And then, of course, it got a reboot. I'm not fond of these reboots they've been doing. The remakes, not being a G1 or anything, but because everyone is critical of the Hollywood gritty reboot. Well, they do that with horror movies, and they don't do the best job, and they kind of lose it a little. I mean, I'm not going to completely take them because they have their fans, and there's totally scenes where you can see they're trying, but it's just they're clearly making a different movie in their heads, apparently. And of course, you could watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. Every single movie is a starting over point, because even though there's a continuity for 4 parts, but it's very loose. All you just know is there's a crazy family of cannibals in the woods. That's it. And there's the remake in 2003, and it's prequel. And the thing is, the prequel really could work still in the old setting. I mean, it literally is like it could work into the original trilogy. Like there's nothing to make it really glued. And then they made a newer one, which you thought was okay. It's part of this new series. No, it's still part of the original 4-part series. I mean, those are really good for just tuning in, and that's just scratching the top. There's tons of movies they're going to be showing this holiday season, and I really another good one. Now, I keep saying how these movies had like soft reboots. Universal Monster series was no different, and like almost every other Frankenstein movie, he was reintroduced in some way. One of my favorites is Son of Frankenstein, and they just played it last weekend on Svengoolie, and that was a really good treat. I love that movie. It's got Basil Rathorn as a Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein's son. It's really cool, really good movie. Yeah, you got a million options for great TV viewing over the next month, and I really, I'm enthralled. It's Halloween time, so I talked more about horror movies than I did Transformers this week. And that's okay. Not every week can be Transformers heavy. Even though I know it's a show about loving Transformers and having fun. Fun is the operative word. So next week, it's going to be all about TFCON. So thanks everybody for listening. I'm Rob. You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr at RoboRobSpringer. And Being Awesome is part of the Radio Free Cybertron family of shows. And you can find all that at tfradio.net. And while you're there, there's some Amazon links. If you can go through those next time you do your Amazon shopping, it'd help us out a whole lot without costing you anything. It'd be much appreciated. Mucho appreciato. Yeah. I'm a little out of it today. I gotta get ready for work now. I kind of could use a little more sleep. I'm just a little running on fumes here. It's Friday. So, happy Friday. The 13th. No, the 2nd. We have a Tuesday the 13th this month. So it's going to be kind of a non-issue 13th this month. No, Jason will keep us calm. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. And, yeah. I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Wham bam.
This has been Being Awesome with Rob Springer.